Okay, so I just went ahead and started it. So give me one moment. I gotta add your scene. Let's see.
Alrighty.
Window capture. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So just what is your name and what do you do for MTN? What's your major? All that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Name is Dylan Simmons. Major is journalism and sports media, and I work as the MTN sports director.
All right. So is that like a paid position or is that just like an internship that you do here? Is that kind of like for a class or how does that work?
It is a paid position. I get paid on a monthly basis, usually at the end of the month. Say for instance, like if I was working the month of February, my first check would come at the end of February.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it works.
Okay. So, what do you do there? And do you enjoy it? And how did you get started on that track of doing what you do there?
Yeah, so I got started with MTN Sports back in August of 2021. And the first thing I did was I worked with audio that night with a football game, basically, is what ended up happening. So I went to a football game. First week I was here, I was already getting plugged in with MTN Sports because I was eager, I was passionate. I was like, all right, let's get something going because I need to do something to get my career worked on. So ended up going there, working with audio, and then eventually that ballooned into more opportunities. I got my first announcer gig as a color commentator for a high school football game in October of that year. And from there, I started doing some tennis. That eventually transitioned over into hockey. And yeah, from there, we've continued on with our tennis broadcast. We're doing a fall sport. There's going to be a different one this fall in 2023. And I was able to become the MTN sports director officially in January of this year. I took over part time as a sports director in November, but I officially took the title this year in January. So it's been a pretty steady rise, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was a really cool part of my development being able to get those different opportunities and eventually work my way up to where I am now.
Yeah. So, were you one of the original ones that started the tennis? Because I know that that's fairly new, or were you one of the ones that just kind of added on to it as the director? Because I know that that's kind of a new thing that not a lot of people do with tennis, at least.
Yeah, I wasn't part of the original group. They came in about, I believe it was 2020 was the first year they actually had a tennis broadcast.
Okay.
Either that or 2021. Actually, come to think of, I think it was 2021 was the first year that they did tennis. But I was a part of the second year group, and I did get to work with a lot of the originals, say like a Noah Brady, a Zachary Loan, people like that, and even Spencer Tomset, some of those guys and learned a lot from them, especially how the tennis broadcast was supposed to be organized. And I've been able to transition those skills into our newer guys. We're learning the tennis broadcasting style as well. And that's a big transition. Now, I was part of the original group that helped put the hockey broadcast together. And I was even back with them when we were just floating the idea around back in, I believe it was February or so, was the first time we even covered hockey for MTN Sports.
Mm-hmm.
And that eventually transitioned over into the full on hockey broadcast in the fall. So I did help put that together with Noah Brady and some of the others, and yeah, it's been fun getting all these new sports together, and can't wait to even do more in the future. We're gonna do like I said, something different in fall, so it should be a good time. But yeah, that's kind of how it's went so far.
All right. One second. Sorry about that.
No, you're
Let
good.
me grab something real quick. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, man.
So, what is a professional internship that you've done so far, if you have done any? And what have you seen that's been the best at getting relationships in the business and being able to find people to talk to? What do you think of that's helped you the most?
Yeah, so in terms of professional internships, I haven't really done, I guess, a official one, but MTN Sports, being the MTN Sports director, might as well be a job internship, something like that. And it deals with a lot of those same things in the business. I'm actually applying for several internships in the summer, maybe a play-by-play job, being a baseball announcer or a soccer announcer, or something like that. There's even one I'm considering applying for Nashville SC. So I've been having different opportunities there, but in terms of forming relationships with people in the business, I find the best way to do it is to take different roles. Don't be afraid to try something out of the box. I think a lot of people, including myself when I first started, came in thinking that you want to be play by play right off the bat. But what I've noticed, especially as time has gone on, is that doesn't always happen. You have to sometimes work your way up. up the ladder. And that's kind of what I ended up doing. I started off as an audio guy for football. Eventually that transitioned over into color. Then I started doing play-by-play for tennis, then play-by-play for hockey. And now I'm doing play-by-play for, oh man, there's been a bunch of sports. I mean, we got tennis, I've done high school football, high school basketball. Right now, I'm in the midst of doing baseball for ESPN Plus. I've done soccer for ESPN Plus, both with MTSU. Both of those have been awesome. Actually, I just a couple hours ago got off an ESPN Plus baseball broadcast, so that was pretty awesome.
Wow.
And the best thing that I was able to do with that is get to know people and just be and to do as much as you can. Be versatile. I think that's the biggest thing, is be versatile and be willing to take on different roles. If you center yourself on one or two sports, you're not going to get as many opportunities, because people, especially in this modern landscape, the I think the upper executives, and I can't speak for them, but they look a lot into who can do a lot of things at once. They look for versatile people. I think of guys like a Joe Davis or a Connor Onion, broadcasters who can do a lot of different sports. And that's kind of the philosophy that I've taken on. So I'm doing as many sports as I can, trying to learn as much as I can, so that I up my chances when I eventually try to get hired by a major network or a major organization like an ESPN or a Fox Sports. So I'd say do a lot and don't be afraid to take on different roles, because it will eventually get you where you need to go. Sometimes it just takes a little patience.
Okay. And the last question I have for you is, what has been your favorite thing that you've done so far? And then what is something that has been your least favorite, and how did you get through it, and what did it help you with?
Yeah, good question. I have loved all the things I've done in terms of college broadcasting. If I had to pick a favorite, I would say the hockey broadcast were loads of fun. I being play by play, because the ice castle, as I call it, the Ford Ice Center, that place is raucous. And when there's goals scored, you feel it in the air. That place is electric. And those fans that come out every night are great. There's nothing to me quite like the spectacle of watching ice hockey, especially club hockey. It gives a different kind of community feeling than you get with other sports. And I always found that really awesome. And being able to call hockey was one of the greatest, coolest things I've done so far. In terms of worst things, I don't think any of the broadcasting opportunities I've been given have been necessarily bad. If there is one that I kind of had to transition with at first, I think soccer was a bit of an adjustment. And even baseball has been to some extent, just because those are sports that I weren't quite as familiar with starting out. But the biggest thing I did was I stuck with it. I tried to learn as much as I could about the sports. And even to this day, I'm still learning. And I'm looking to do play-by-play for soccer again in the fall. And I'm going to try to keep going on this baseball thing as long as I can. And again, I think that it was tough for me in the beginning because I didn't quite understand everything that was happening. It felt like a lot to keep up, and it kind of, racked my mind a little bit. But I was able to eventually figure out, all right, this is how things are done. This is how the sport works. Call it to this different style, because you can't call every sport the same exact way. It's not like you call a tennis broadcast the same way you do a football one. You just can't have the same level of excitement or same level of style to it. So it's a learning process for some of these other sports, but that's where the fun comes in. That's when you discover how versatile you can be. I mean, look at a guy like Jim Nantz. He can do the Super Bowl and he can do the Masters tournament. Two opposite ends of the spectrum there, right? But he can do both of them because he's got that versatility and he's trained for years with both sports. So, yeah, I think that even though baseball and soccer have been a bit of an adjustment, they were great because, again, they've helped me develop more and more of my skills and showed more of what I can do. So it's all about adapting, I think, especially in this modern landscape.
Great. And thank you so much for that. And really, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Appreciate the help. And it was a fun interview, man.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I'm going to stop.